In the Canadian town of Medicine Hat, a horrifying tragedy unfolded. The Richardson family was brutally murdered, leaving their 12-year-old daughter, Jasmine, as the lone survivor. The shocking twist was that Jasmine and her boyfriend, Jeremy, were responsible for the heinous act. This event marked Jasmine as the youngest person in Canadian history to be convicted of multiple homicides. Jasmine's life took a drastic turn after she met Jeremy at a punk concert. Prior to this encounter, she was a cheerful and sociable girl. However, Jeremy's influence had a profound impact on her. Their 11-year age difference raised eyebrows, but it was the drastic shift in lifestyle and attitude that shocked everyone. Under Jeremy's influence, Jasmine was introduced to his distorted interpretation of the goth subculture, which she embraced wholeheartedly. Quickly finding her place within it, she became an active participant on platforms like vampirefreaks.com. Jasmine underwent a sudden transformation, evolving from a typical preteen into a brooding and menacing version of herself. Jeremy's upbringing was challenging, standing in stark contrast to the wholesome Richardson family. The Steinke family was fractured, with Jeremy's mother struggling with alcoholism and his father subjecting him to regular abuse. School provided no sanctuary, as he endured relentless bullying from his peers. The weight of his troubled past had already driven him to attempt suicide. Dealing with a tough upbringing, Jeremy developed some strange habits. He'd wear a vial of human blood around his neck, and sometimes claimed to be a centuries-old werewolf. As fate would have it, his troubled past and strange traits would eventually collide with Jasmine's life, setting off a series of tragic events that would haunt the small town of Medicine Hat. Jeremy and Jasmine would listen to music, watch films, and do everything together. When Jasmine's parents found out about their relationship, they tried to keep them apart, but it didn't work. Instead, their love grew stronger. Jasmine was convinced they were deeply in love, despite the age difference. Her parents' disapproval just made her cling tighter to Jeremy and drift further from her family. Jeremy noticed the Richardson family's resentment towards him and expressed his frustrations in an online blog. His ominous closing lines were, "I want to slit their throats. Silence will finally come when their blood becomes payment." Jasmine started exchanging emails with Jeremy, sharing pieces of her plan. "It starts with me killing them," she wrote, "and it ends with me living with you." Jeremy responded eagerly, proposing they add more creative elements to the scheme. As the plan took shape, Jasmine confided in her friends about it, but they couldn't believe she was seriously considering harming her own parents. On April 22, 2006, Jasmine and Jeremy spent time together watching Oliver Stone's film, Natural Born Killers. The movie depicted a young couple embarking on a love-inspired killing spree. The following day, their actions would forever change the town of Medicine Hat. On that day, one of Tyler's friends visited their home, but no one answered the door. Concerned, the young boy peeked inside through a basement window, hoping to find Tyler. However, the sight that met his eyes was horrifying. In shock, he rushed back to his mother, who then called the police. When the police arrived at the Richardson residence, they knocked on the front door, but received no response. Intrigued, they approached the basement window and peeked inside, where they could barely make out the figure of a person lying on the ground. Without hesitation, the police forcefully broke down the door and rushed to the basement, where they discovered the lifeless bodies of Marc and Debra. They also discovered young Tyler's lifeless body in his bedroom. However, there was no trace of the other Richardson child, Jasmine. The police launched a search for her, with no one suspecting her involvement in the murders. While people looked for Jasmine, the police started piecing together the events of the previous night. It was determined that Debra had been the first victim, with numerous stab wounds covering her body. Marc, on the other hand, appeared to have put up a fight, as evidenced by defensive wounds. However, the most horrifying was the murder of 8-year-old Tyler. As he slept peacefully in his bed, the perpetrator approached silently and brutally slashed his throat open with a knife. The police issued a public statement stating their active pursuit of Jasmine in connection to a serious family issue. However, after they thoroughly searched her room, examined her locker, and interviewed her friends, suspicions began to point towards Jasmine herself as a potential suspect. Their investigation extended to digital traces, uncovering emails exchanged between her and Jeremy. In addition to searching for Jasmine, they also initiated a hunt for Jeremy. The following day, the authorities apprehended the couple in Leader, Saskatchewan. Jasmine was found guilty of 3 murders, making her the youngest person in Canadian history to be convicted of multiple homicides. Jeremy received 3 life sentences, and he will only be eligible for parole after completing 25 years of his imprisonment. Jasmine was released in 2016 and is now a free woman.